Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danico, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go, Devils!
I've been stuffed in your pocket for the last 100 days. When I don't get my bath, I take it out on the slaves. So grease up your baby for a ball on the hill. I'll polish them rockets now and swallow those pills and say, oh. Space Lord, mother.
That's some nice pick there, Tone. Some Monster Magnet.
New Jersey
I
Monster
think of
Magnet.
Talladega Nights when I hear that song. They always play it.
I forgot that song.
They play it the last race. Yeah,
Right.
I mean
Yeah.
it doesn't really cut it compared to the Pat Benatar race at the end. You know.
I don't know if you guys listen to Monster Magnet, but I mean, all their records they're a killer band, man. They're a Jersey band.
I like that song. I really don't know them too much, but good pick, Tone. Good pick.
Hey, you know.
So we are the Uncle Puckers and New Jersey Devil podcast. Chris, Dan, Bobby, Tony. We are all here. Delayed one night from the show from a scheduling conflict. I know in the last show we said we were recording Thursday. Now it's Friday, so here we are.
That was my fault.
So no,
I
it
take
was
the
not
blame on
your
that
fault. This is a four-man team. If one guy's
He's
not
on-
available, none of us are available. Well,
That's right.
it's not really
Lithuania
true,
time change. It's not his fault.
and I texted the guys separately from you, and Bobby turned around and said, with how Tony wakes up and watches these games and comes on and does these shows at 2:30 in the morning, it's the least we can do. And me and Dan were like, really? We just thought we'd do it without him. But no, Bobby talked us into doing
Bobby.
it with you. So
Okay, I throw you one bone a season. You
I'm
get it
telling
down.
you, man.
that was it.
I got you a
Bone.
point last week on The Devil You Know. So there you go.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
did.
There's your bone.
And he can't get a bone tonight unless he No, he can't get a bone tonight. He's giving us the questions. So
You know,
Shouldn't I get a bone if nobody answers it right?
You'll get the bone anyway.
well, it depends.
Yeah, that's right.
If we don't
They get
answer it
boned.
right, if we if we don't answer it right because you gave us 20 clues and we're just stupid, I guess maybe we'll give you the point. But if you give us 2 clues, then shout out the answer. Like some people,
What am I, Tony?
You're exactly. You're not getting the point.
All right.
Oh, he had that queued up.
That's all I hear. That's all I fucking hear.
Tony, you might want to go put your duct tape back over your girlfriend's mouth.
You know, actually, a really quick funny thing is, well, an awful thing, but yesterday I'm in the garage, working on some stuff, and my wife's in the other room, and my kid, I just fed her dinner, and I put her in her bed.
All right,
She's just
before you
on
tell
two.
the
Her
story,
bed is
does Lithuania have DIFUS? I just want to know.
Yeah, we don't have DIFUS. I remember DIFUS.
Okay, go ahead then.
Regulars at my house as a child. No, but so we have a crib that's like kind of close to our bed for her, because she sleeps in the crib still. And my wife starts screaming, Tony, Tony. I just got done feeding her all this pasta. And she was, everything was fine. And I put her in the bed. She let me tell you, she vomited on the
There's nothing
floor,
like that.
our bed, our pillows, the walls. And our bedroom is like completely white. My wife has the one room.
Head is
I'm not
spinning
allowed to hang
around.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the woman's room. It was a fucking nightmare. Sorry to share that with you, but
No, I have a. I'm not going to say it
Been
now,
there.
but I have a couple of great vomit stories with Dan. One involves
let's go way back.
animals.
I was thinking-
one involves stuffed animals, a second floor window, and Dan naked. So
Yeah.
Those
Good
stories.
times.
I lived with Dan, so I got the naked thing I've seen, I think, before.
It
for some
happens.
reason, back when Dan used to get,
I thought we were sticking
to
to kid vomit stories. That's what I thought.
No, I was thinking of your
kids.
vomit stories. 'Cause
Oh,
they
yeah,
are
we
much
were kids, I
funnier.
guess.
They are much funnier.
Yeah.
And but for some reason,
Hindsight's
your vomit
20/20.
stories always. Your vomit stories always end with me in a laundromat until 2 in the fucking morning. You sleeping it off and me in a fucking laundromat. Why is
It's
that
kind
always
of, up Chuck, and then I'm out.
Didn't that even happen in New England? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes, it happened.
275 miles away.
That's okay, boys. I had an ex-girlfriend puke on my
I
desk.
bring my problems with me wherever I go.
Yeah. Well, no, you were upstairs that night. You were
I
upstairs
remember.
with Bobby's roommate, the Puerto Rican guys up there, and I guess we were drinking all day and night, and I guess you partook in some other extracurriculars. And
It was party
like-
time.
it was definitely a party. It was like 4 a.m, and everybody's gone, and me and Bobby and 2 girls are sitting in the living room. We're just bullshitting, drinking a beer, and Bobby goes, "Where the fuck is Dan?" And with that, we start hearing, and Bob's like, "What the fuck
There he
is
is.
that?" So I get up. We open up Bobby's bedroom door. Dan is in his boxers on all fours,
On the
just
bed.
throwing up all over Bobby's bed.
Straight up on the bed.
Yeah. Best part is I don't remember any of that stuff.
Dan, do you remember the big swordfish we had on our wall that came
Oh,
with
yeah.
the place?
Yeah, definitely. That I remember. I saw that thing
was
sober.
great. I will say that location. That was you wake up and you hop on the roof and there's the ocean. I mean, it was great.
It was
I didn't
yeah, it was
appreciate
the
that.
best
Vomit story,
roach
John.
infested place you could get. You know, it was great. Right?
Yeah,
Remember that?
of course,
It
the
was
roaches fucking loved it there. I mean,
I
it was
remember,
really
I remember
fucking,
finding
like,
Dan
it
and a
was
bottle of
seriously-
vodka and a couple roaches in the living room. And
It was like the
Yeah.
fucking Waldorf Astoria to those roaches. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Good times.
we had an alarm that would go off and the cops would come up the stairs with guns. You remember that, Dan? The alarm
Oh, yeah.
that would go
All cops
off.
have guns.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh,
but they would have their guns drawn and shit, and we'd be like, sleep, and the place would be like a wreck, and you wonder who's got what, and why are the cops here? Oh, the alarm went off.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then, it's a crazy place,
Or our
crazy
landlord
place
would
to
come
live.
in. Or our landlord
Yep.
would come in and fucking yell at us. Just come in the door and talk shit.
And we were asking him, should this microwave run when the door's open? Isn't that dangerous?
Fuckface, what are you asking? We all know who I'm talking about, I think.
Yeah. We were
see?
certain
Is that
that
who
we
you're
that would
talking
stop
about?
us from having
Yeah,
kids, but
yeah.
it didn't work.
Shit,
Yeah.
me and Chris used to work for this guy, and we had an intercom over by the place where we used to cook at. And basically, you'd be cooking and working, and this guy would be yelling at you, "Hey, fuck faces, come downstairs and grab the ice bucket, you motherfuckers!"
I know one time it was not that busy in the place, and it was summertime, so we'd always get busy. So it was like noon, and it wasn't that busy. So we had this dude worked with us. I shouldn't say his name, but whatever. I haven't seen the guy in like 30 years. His name was Rusty, and
Trombone.
Rusty,
He's not gonna pork it, Rusty.
Trombone was, so I said to Rusty, I said, dude, well, it's not
He's
busy.
gonna pork her, Dad.
I say, go. I think it's
Turn
gonna
around,
pork
Rusty.
her, Dad. So he goes. I tell him to go get the ladder from the arcade next door. Go get a watering can. I need all the plants watered in the dining room. So Rusty gets the ladder, gets the watering can, and he's fucking watering every plant. Right now, the place starts filling up, and he's moving the ladder around tables and everything, and I'm just hysterical. So finally, the intercom comes on, and it was the boss, and we hear it. Now the place is packed, and we hear, "Rusty, what the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, Chris told me to water the plants." He's like, "The fucking plants are plastic, you idiot!" And this guy watered like 20 fucking plants.
Dude, that guy, he would yell at us all the time for no reason. He would just,
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It was like a
He
comedy.
was
You
not a
couldn't.
nice man. There was one time though, we just got. I think I might have told this story once before, but Tone and I were working. There was a dude working there, Dave, and we had just gotten like a delivery in with like some new brooms and stuff. So we were getting ready to close up. So Dave hops over the counter to clean up, to start sweeping, and Tony goes, "Dave, what the fuck are you doing?" And he stops real quick. He's like, "What?" He goes, "Dude, those are brand new brooms. If and we're not going to say his name, if EC sees you using the bristles on the broom, they're brand new. He's going to lose his shit." He's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" He's like, "Use the other side." So the guy flips the broom over, and he's fucking pushing the dirt in the grab lines of the tile with the post of the fucking stick.
I owe that
Oh
guy
my
like
God.
6 beers, man.
What a bunch of idiots.
That's bad.
We would send people over to like the other pizzerias on the boardwalk to go get the Pizza Patch repair kit. You know, just go to Three Brothers and grab the Pizza Patch repair kit. Like they come back and be like, "The guy fucking threw a slice of pizza at me, screaming at me." He'd yell at us. And they could go downstairs go up to the owner of the fucking building. Guy's worth like $20 million. And yeah, they're looking for a can of steam upstairs. Where can I find that? Make them fucking go around looking for everything. One
That's
time,
the
I had a
best.
guy go down. I had a guy go downstairs. I told him I needed a case of furry lap flounder and a case of bearded clam.
Yep.
He goes down and asks the owner where it is. He goes, "Well, I don't know."
Oh,
Let's go
EC?
find it." And I had the fucking owner and another guy looking for bearded clam and furry lap flounder.
Oh, it wasn't
Yeah.
EC, so I was going to say he would.
No, that was
he would
was,
shit down the guy's
SD.
throat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Fucking yeah. That was just fucking good times. So I'm glad everybody grew up and got at. Oh wait, no, I didn't. I'm still there.
No, not
Anyway.
really.
So yeah, not really, but sort of. All right, let's talk hockey.
Did you
How
guys
about
watch
that?
that
yeah.
game last night? I mean,
I did not.
Crazy game.
I know 4 overtimes, like 12 seconds before they were about to go into the 5th overtime, and
The
Kachuk
Chuck.
got the game winner to lead that series 1-0. So yeah, I mean it's going to be a good series. I didn't watch. Like I said, I only watched the third period. So I mean, Tone, you watched the whole game.
So basically, like I'm at fault for last night. Like I said, I slept a little bit last night. I woke up my time. I woke up in the third period, basically in the morning here. So I watched from the third period and all the 4 overtimes, and it was. I'm so impressed with Florida. It's hard to picture. This team is just they're like cockroaches,
Yeah.
man. They are
What
Playing
did you think
some
about
really
that?
good hockey right now.
Got called back though. What did you think about that? Because I did see it on the highlights. I'm like, I don't know if I like that call. I mean, I think they
I
could
don't
have.
know. I mean, it didn't kill them at the end of the day,
Person.
right?
Yeah, I noticed that like he did bump his foot, but it's got to like stop him from making the. If anything, he bumped in the direction of which way he should have gone. And, he's going away from the puck and away from where the goal went in, and they call it. I don't know. I thought it was like that should have been 10 right there.
They
No, it was a goal interference. They called it,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and because I forget which player it was, but a Florida player, who's number 6, whoever it was, I forget. I remember his number. I don't remember his name now, but he bumped Anderson. Just a little bit on his foot. Meanwhile, Anderson's going from his left to his right, and he's going away from the puck, the play. If anything, he made it closer than it was to go in, but
Right.
I guess in slow motion that's easier to see,
But props to Anderson too, though. I mean, we were talking last week. The Carolina's
Yeah.
goaltending is dirt. I got to say, man. First of
57
all,
saves, yeah.
Bobrovsky. Oh my God. I mean, it was insane last night, and the saves they were making in overtime were so impressive. I mean, they were rock paddles.
Yep.
I mean, it was crazy, But that team, man, Florida. Like I said, they're resilient. I think last night was a huge win. I thought they were going to win this series. I said that. Who knows if they will? But they won in Carolina. You could see those people's faces. There was people like sleeping in the seats. Like
I can't stand being at games that go that long. I really
you have
can't.
you have to stay. That was the 6th longest
Yeah,
game
you
in,
have to
in
stay.
history.
That's what you hate about it.
Because
Most
that was
Thursday
the
night,
6th
most
longest.
people have to get up and work, and it's like, oh, great, the fucking game's over at 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Good segue
Sure.
on the goalies, though, because I do want to talk a little bit about something a couple of articles that were written by a guy over the last couple of days that kind of
Yeah.
piggyback off of the Connor Hollabuck situation or discussion that we were having on the last show.
Right,
So,
right.
I'm going to kind of bounce around a couple of things, and I'm just curious what you guys think. So, Nick Villano from Pucks and Pitchforks. Now, I would love to, if you do listen to this show, please DM us, because I would love to get you on this show, because I would love to pick your brain on certain things. But, so he starts off here, New Jersey Devils, 5 players legitimately worth Jesper Bratt trade. And he writes here, the Jesper Bratt discourse has been out of control. The New Jersey Devils winger is coming into another offseason without a contract, his 3rd in 4 years. After 2 harsh contract negotiations and a playoff no-show, fans are pretty fed up with the whole thing. Fans are fickle, so this isn't unexpected. However, the suggestions for trade offers or outright releasing Bratt are beyond insane. I haven't heard anybody say just release the guy. I
Yeah,
haven't
who
heard
said that?
at all.
Where did he
No,
pick
I
that
don't
one
know.
up?
I don't know where anybody got that idea. I mean,
I'm
the guy
curious, yeah.
is an extremely valuable chip on your fucking chessboard. You're not going to
Maybe somebody on Twitter said that, but I can't imagine too
Maybe.
many people.
But it hasn't been a course of conversation. Nobody's, you know what I mean? It's not like it's being
No.
talked about widely. So then
He's
he
the
writes,
first one to bring it up in print that I think.
that
Yeah.
I saw, yeah. And he writes, yes, there have been fans that said the Devils shouldn't even extend Brad a qualifying offer. That's ridiculous and would never happen. I do agree with that. The trade options are just as wild. Maybe it makes sense in terms of talent acquisition to send Bratt to the Winnipeg Jets for Connor Hollabuck. He is one of the better goalies in the league, but he has 1 year left and he's about to turn 30 years old. Now, let's just stop there. I asked you guys what you thought because, today's his birthday, so happy birthday, Connor. He turns
Oh,
30
happy
today.
birthday.
And then he goes on and he has 5 players that he thinks is suitable to trade Jesper Bratt for. Now, when we were talking about Jesper Bratt to Winnipeg for Connor Hollabuck, we have a a piece here that has some value, and
Right.
we do think that at some point, or at least I should speak for myself on this, I think that at some point Tom Fitzgerald and the management really does have to have like their come to Jesus moment about whether or not Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmidt are the right guys to get this team
Right.
far into the playoffs.
Sure.
Right.
I don't think so. I feel a little bit more confident, like we talked about last show, about Schmidt than I do about Vanacek. But when your team has kind of popped the way this team has now, and just threw that window open, and now it's open, so you can't close it. You can't, you're not going to go backwards. So do we want to, if you feel that this is going to be a situation that's going to come up for the next 2 or 3 years in the playoffs where our goaltending lets us down, and yes, goaltending was not the only reason that we are not playing hockey right now. There were a lot of other factors. But you have to look at the goaltending as a big one. It is the most important position on the ice. And it needs to be, you look at the guys that are left. You got $10 million Bobrovsky. You got Freddie Anderson playing really good. I mean, yeah, Vegas has goaltending issues, but that's just due to injury. And then you have, these are all number one guys that are playing. We don't really have that. Then he writes another article that came out, I guess, yesterday. And he starts it with, New Jersey Devils are fine in net with Vanacek and Akira Schmidt. And he writes, the Devils were eliminated from the playoffs 1 week ago of this writing. It's been 1 week since the dream of a Stanley Cup championship was still alive. The Devils did not look great against the Hurricanes, and the goaltending did not help. Both Vanacek and Schmidt played in 4 games against the Canes, playing within 2 minutes of each other, 130 for Vanacek, 132 for Schmidt. Schmidt had the better stats, but they still weren't good. And then he has a bunch of their analytics, and despite the numbers, the analytics say that Schmidt was at least all right in net. And then he says Vanacek has an issue throughout the postseason. Devil starter all season, looked great, but he looked out of gas in the playoffs, and blah, blah, blah. Despite the regular season success, Devil fans are ready to move on to a superstar goaltender. The name that keeps coming up is Connor Hellebuyck. The Winnipeg Jets star says he has no interest in a rebuild, and that has everyone saying he's asking to leave, ignoring the fact that this is a huge over-exaggeration. The Devils would have to give up a lot for Hellebuyck while also figuring out how much he's worth. He only has 1 year left on his contract, and he's going to turn 30 this offseason. It's a huge risk that could backfire, putting the Devils in a place they may waste the previous rebuild. The Devils are fine in net. Are they great? No. But they are perfectly fine with Vanacek and Schmidt taking the net next season. The former showed he could carry the load for the regular season, and Schmidt showed he has ice in his veins, shutting out the New York Rangers in Game 7. Okay, so let's just start with that. So is that going to be our plan? Vanacek's our regular season goalie, Schmidt's our postseason goalie? That doesn't seem like a recipe for success.
Not a great plan.
I agree.
I've never heard of that strategy before.
It's a weird strategy, yeah.
Yeah, I concur. And then he goes, Tom Fitzgerald has been following a very specific model to try and find the next great goalie. Hellebuyck was a 5th-round pick. Sorokin was a 3rd-round pick. Shesterkin a 4th-round pick. That's why the Devils have spent a pick every single year on a goalie under Fitzgerald. This is clearly Fitzgerald hoping if he keeps rolling the dice, he'll eventually hit the players like Sorokin. Right now he has Schmid, Nico Dawes, Tyler Brennan, Jacob Malik, Cole Brady, and Mackenzie Blackwood as goalies his organization drafted that they have the rights to. Actually, they still have the rights to Gillis Sen as well, but he went to play overseas. And the hope is one of these players turns into the next Hellebuyck. I'm going to stop there. First of all, you have a lot of guys in the pipeline. Now, this team, I don't think that we should just look at next season and say, well, just make the playoffs again. No. Now it's time to, let's win a Stanley Cup, right? This team is, most of the pieces are in place. Yeah, they have some tweaking to do, but this team can definitely play for a Stanley Cup. We saw the way they played all regular season, and my big concern is, now, let's say you keep Vanacek and Schmidt, and next year we get into the playoffs and we get bounced in the first or second round because our goaltending is suspect. And then next year, what? You're going to bring another guy up, get to the playoffs, hope that works out, and then maybe the next guy, and then the next guy. That's not how it's going to work. If none of these guys pan out, or your third guy pans out, that could be 5 years from now. To me, making a play for a guy like Hellebuyck is the smartest thing that this team can do right now. If management does not think that Schmidt and Vanacek are the guys. And I don't know what they think, but if they have eyes, they have to say that Vanacek is not. Because, yes, maybe Schmidt will be the guy, but I don't think Vanacek is going to be the guy in the playoffs. Now, to say, when the last article he wrote about Jesper Bratt, saying Bratt for Hollebuck is stupid, because in his logic is you have to replace him with somebody similar, because you have to reproduce his production on the ice. Well, if you sign Timo Meier, there's your production. Am I right? I mean, he had 40-plus goals. Brad had 30. Only 9 of those goals were with the Devils. So, yeah, why you're telling me you don't think that Timo Meier can give you 30 to 40 goals a year?
Chris, what are you thinking about Timo Meier coming back? I mean, I'm sure you saw the exit that Fitzgerald's
I did see the exit interview.
Well, his conference he did. And it was kind of interesting, some of the things he was saying. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's 100% locked in there.
No, it doesn't. I agree.
No, it's not like they know where we stand. I talked to his agent, meaning Claude Lemieux, and so some of those things were like, oh, he actually sounded more positive on the Bratt deal than he did on Meier, which I was like, wow, I didn't expect that coming from Fitzgerald, but that was my impression. It wasn't negative on Meier, but he wasn't as positive as I thought he was going to be.
Go ahead, Tom.
As I say, it didn't sound as guaranteed as almost the Halla seems. Because I think Halla's, like I said, coming back, and got that vibe. I didn't feel the same way when he was talking about Meier, and that was I was a little concerned. I was like, damn, man, because I do think if we lose him, I don't think with the trade that we did. I mean, we gave up some stuff, and I don't think we got exactly what we wanted, especially if we lose him.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be a big kick in the nuts for this organization if they can't sign him up. I hope that they get it done. Again, if you can get Bratt done. I'm just looking at this team. Let's say we have Meier and we have Bratt and we have the rest of the roster that we have now. Yes, I know some guys are going to be gone and some guys are going to be up. Our blue line is going to have Nemec and Hughes on it from the start, most likely next year. But if you have Bratt and Meier on the team, and you do think that you need some help in net, Bratt is the guy. Like, that's the guy you move. Am I wrong about that? Like, he's a valuable chip. You can get something for him, and I don't think that we're going to miss his production, and definitely not what he did in the playoffs. And for a guy like, let's say, Connor Hollebuck, who is, again, only 30. I think Dominic Hasek was traded to Detroit when he was 35 or 36 from Buffalo.
No, that's a great point. But when you say, like...
That worked out well.
Definitely, and when you say though, like, get something for Bratt, we don't have a deal with him yet. So like what are we gonna? It's not like it's a straight up trade with anybody. You know what I mean? It's one of those trades when you don't really have the guy. And that makes it more difficult and tough. Like it's not a straight up trade of guys under contract. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So
and
that's what makes it difficult, and there's definitely a way to take a bath with this and getting Hollebuck, and you don't even really have him, and like almost walking in the same situation we're worried about with Meier a year from now. Hollebuck, it's tough. It's tough pulling these triggers, and you don't really get the guy you want locked up that way.
But if you were talking to Winnipeg and you can agree on a 3-year deal with Hollebuck,
right?
Would you do it?
For what though? Bratt and
right,
that's it, because
let's say Bratt and a prospect, and we get Connor Hollebuck.
Yeah, like Bratt and
a
bag of pucks.
24-year-old 30 goal scorer with tons of upside on a team that's going to be rebuilding.
It makes a lot of sense. I totally get it, because you want a younger guy because you're rebuilding. That's what Winnipeg should be looking at. I understand that, and as long as that's the trade, it's almost like practically straight up. Yeah, definitely, especially after the playoffs that we had. And Winnipeg can look at that and go, it doesn't really matter because we're a few years off from the playoffs, and that was like, he's young, he's going to be fine, we're not worried about it. So I think it might work for both teams. I don't know. It's hard to say. What's our trade history? What's that?
No. What'd you say, Tone?
I was going to say Winnipeg would probably want to get a Bratt under contract, though.
Well, yeah, like
right.
He would want.
And he's not going to go there, I think,
contract.
after playing with the Devils and dealing with this shit.
Right. Bratt would need a new contract, and Hollebuck would need a new contract. So in a perfect world, then they both agreed to sign for however long they want to sign Bratt. We can get, because I don't think you want Hellebuck for any kind of long-term deal. We're not talking 8 years, $80 million. But if you can get him for 3 years, because look, this team, everything happened a lot. The team grew up a lot faster than I think that all of us thought. But I think even, management, ownership weren't expecting this. Now, the only thing that's lagging is your goaltending. I'm not one to make the, flippant moves or anything just to get a guy in there. But I feel like we are going to be in a position like every freaking postseason like we were this year if we don't take care of it, or if Schmid doesn't turn around to be the guy, or Dawes doesn't turn around to be the guy, or one of the other 5 goalies that he mentioned being the guy.
I saw that article, and he's like, "No, fine." And I got what you're saying, because I felt the same thing. I'm like, "Yeah, we're fine," because that's our biggest weakness. I don't know if we're fine. Now, look, if it comes to pass that we can't make the deal we want and get who we want, I think Schmid has a very strong possibility, but that's not the same thing as getting a Connor Hellebuck. Definitely,
it's a big question mark with Schmid too, right? We don't know what we're going to get next year, and with Vanacek, I think that if Schmid with a combo like that, I think you would almost. And I love Vanacek, and he had a great regular season with 33 wins, but I think for us to have that combo next year, you would have to hope that Schmid would just take that starting job.
Yeah,
that's what you.
Yeah,
you're right. Like this year, you should earn that starting position, Schmid. We're looking for you to do that and be our number one going into the season. You got to earn it to do it and keep it up. But that's what I would hope, because I feel like Schmid's got the future that Vanacek doesn't. Still, it's not the same thing as getting a proven goaltender. But really, what is the cost? Like you mentioned, $10 million Bobrovsky. What's Hellebuck going to do to our cap? I know we got a lot of cap room, but I don't really know all the numbers, and we got to re-sign a bunch of guys too. So I really love to see the math on that. It might make it like, okay, dude, you're not going to be able to sign this guy or that guy if you get Hellebuck. Well, maybe that's not a great move then. I don't know.
All those things are right. I mean, true. Bobby, what were you going to say?
Listen, I mean, there's just a ton to unpack here. We're kind of covering a bunch of stories at one point. I mean, pound for pound, if you told me it was something in the way of straight up, Brad for Hellebuck, I take that. I take that for this team right now where we are. That is assuming then that, of course, we are signing Meyer. But even without that, I mean, I just looking at this team, the playoff they had, I think Hellebuck would have made a hell of a difference. So that's number one. Number two, with the Winnipeg thing and even trading Bratt, like even to entertain that, Bratt might have to be locked up in a contract first, because who's to say that Winnipeg's over there saying, I don't want to give this guy 8.5 either. So, he's a great player, so maybe if it's year for year, would they do that? I don't know. I think it's one of these things that just has to kind of evolve as it goes, and it's going to start with like one signing first. Like something needs to become secure, whether it's Bratt or Meyer, something needs to become secure first before they're really going to be able to look at that. For two GMs to talk and say, hey, I got an expiring guy, you got an expiring guy, and they both need to go somewhere else and be re-signed, that's tough.
I mean, it would have to be something, because you can't sign Bratt with the idea that you're going to move him right after he signs, because I think that could seriously hurt you as far as getting new free agents to want to come here, because that's kind of a dick move. Oh yeah, they didn't fucking say shit to him. They get the guy to sign a 5-year deal, and then they moved him next week to Winnipeg. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that could be shitty, but you're right.
With the agents and and everybody knowing what the plan is, if they go that way, right?
That's the thing. If you have something, let's say just talking, and you got something on. Okay, we have verbiage of a deal. Then you sit down with Bratt and say, okay, Winnipeg wants you. Are you willing to sign? I'll give you permission. Talk to them. Your agent can talk to them, or we could talk to Hellebuck's agent, and if we can both work out something that both teams are happy with, maybe you make that deal. Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts. So, yeah, I don't think it's something that can happen overnight. But at the same time, when you just look at like this team and what this team needs, I really do think, and again, back to what Dan and Tony were saying too, Schmid could very well be the guy. I mean, he did show us a lot this year, and I would like to, if there's, and again,
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't see Schmid in that deal. We're talking about a Hellebuck deal. I wouldn't want to give away Schmid for Hellebuck.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
But what about
I'm not
Vanacek?
saying it's Vanacek. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I would make that move, but Schmidt, I feel like has such a potential that it might,
I
he
agree.
could turn into another Blackwood. We don't know. I'm not saying he's the man right now, but he's shown the best potential of a young goalie that we've seen. I mean, he played some pressure situations and came up great. And I honestly don't even blame him for those performances in the round 2. So, I'm very hot on keeping him in this organization and see where it takes us next year with him before we make any long-term decisions. I don't want to get rid of him. That's for sure.
I think
No, I don't
if you're
either.
talking Hollaback and potentially the money he's going to get, I think you need to have the guy like Schmidt in there making less. Because it does add up over time. And as far as the GM talking about Timo Meyer, listen, he's had a lot longer time working with Brad's agent. There's a little bit more of a relationship there. It's kind of new working with Claude Lemieux on Meyer. He just kind of got traded. I mean, I would give that time. These are professionals, and they're after solid market-based contracts or above. And if the Devils are willing to offer that, I think that they can get a job done. I wouldn't feel like Brad's closer. I think that's just the way that the GM is going to present the information he has at the time. And it's really just going to get started now. So,
And you're right, because Brad does have a contract already put forward by the Devils. So, I mean, I don't know if they've even discussed anything with Claude Lemieux yet. You're right. I do think that Meyer is going to come back. I do think we are going to sign him, but I did get that feeling after watching that this is still very much up in the air.
He just don't know.
Now, he did write in here, because apparently moving Jesper Bratt for somebody that's not playing winger for you is stupid, so we have to go out and get another player like Bratt. So he has acceptable trades for himself that he would accept, that he thinks. So this is, and one of these guys, two of these guys I really like. One of these guys I'm very much interested in, that is a good player for what we might get. So the first guy he has is William Nylander from Toronto. And he writes, this one is probably going to come up a lot. It's incredibly ironic. Toronto Maple Leaf fans have been giving William Nylander issues since he has contentious contract negotiations in December of 18. He ended up being underpaid. Now he's looking to cash in even further. He could want a deal in the realm of JT Miller, which is 7 years at $56 million, or Philippe Forsberg, which is 8 years for $68 million. It's a lot of fucking money. It would help the Devils in the short and long term to replace Bratt with Nylander. They play a similar game. They both play wing. Nylander is a little better than Bratt, too. Would the Maple Leafs do the deal 1-for-1? Probably not, but the Devils wouldn't have to add much, blah, blah, blah. So that's his first one. What do you guys think of William Nylander?
I don't know.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. He's fine. He's serviceable, but probably not the route we'd go. My gut right away says if Bratt's out, that's a prospect fill, but that's for a different topic. Yeah.
So Bratt for Nylander, no.
No.
Yeah.
I don't see how he's playoff proven any better than Bratt, too. That's the problem. Like, we're talking about moving Bratt. Let's face it. Let's be real. Don't forget this, because of the playoff performance. And if we're going to move him, we want to go up. We would like to get somebody who's maybe got most of his potential, but not all of it, but yet is a solid playoff performer. And I don't see, Nylander as necessarily that guy.
I do want to say, though, that I want to see Bratt stay, but I'm in for a right price. I mean, I don't want to see him go. But I remember when he played, he came up last year, he had some really great, it was inconsistent, as we know, and there was a lot of slumps, especially like the last 4 months. You kind of, it wasn't a main. It was a point in that team where he was on fire for, I forget how long the period was. It was a handful of games though. But I do like Jesper Bratt. It's just we kind of got a bad taste in our mouth, right?
I like Jesper Bratt a lot, yes, but that's it. It's a bad taste in your mouth, and it's like we can't wash it out, so we have to talk about getting rid of him. Because if he's back next year, then that's fine. I have no problem with Jesper Bratt. I just
and we're going to be upset if all of a sudden we sign Bratt for 7 years. Like that's not going to bother us.
No.
Just say fast forward to next playoffs, and if he goes away in the playoffs again, are you going to be surprised? No. I mean, I'm kind of surprised this year, but am I going to be surprised next year? Or am I going to go, why didn't we move this guy? You know what I'm saying?
But if you put 7 or 8 in, we're going to be like, thank God we re-signed him. It was a bad year.
Right. It's always possible. He just had a bad year. I'd love to know, mitigating circumstances. Like we said, Meyer played great, but we think he could have played better if he was healthy. You know, like
Really,
you know,
could.
where is Brat's like what makes the Brat fan feel like he's going to have a better playoffs next time? I don't know what that is. I wish I knew because I do like him.
It's weird because you look at other guys that didn't perform in the playoffs, right? Let's say, guys that like Tatar or Mercer and Heischer.
Right. Yeah.
But yet, at the same time, going into next playoffs, I would say I totally expect Mercer and Heischer and these guys to play a lot better. I don't really feel that about Brat. You're right.
What is
it's
that?
like I kind of.
But what
I don't
is
know.
that?
I
Is
think
it because
it's
like during the season he sometimes also goes away for stretches?
Yes. I
Is
think
it
that's
also
right.
like that he hung the contract out so long that it pissed everybody off?
Yeah, and
I don't
that's
know.
the other thing. Every time you're coming up to a contract, like you're going to arbitration or signing a year deal, 15 minutes before arbitration's supposed to start, it does piss players off, fans off. Fans, they
I know. I
they
mean,
love
I
the
like
players, and they
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I mean, I hate doing that, but I find myself doing that because, like, these people who run these teams, like, they could pay these guys. You know what I mean? To us, it's like, just take the $7 million. What's wrong with you, asshole? But, like, it's a bigger picture than that. So I hate rooting against the player trying to get paid what they're worth. On the other hand, like, what takes so long, right? Just as a fan, like, are you going to play here or not? Let's figure this out.
If you don't want to, then just say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the second guy he has does fit what you said, Dan, as far as being, the right age. I think has a higher ceiling than Jesper Bratt. I think this guy is going to be a better player in the long run. Did have an okay playoff, nothing spectacular, but an okay one, and we're back to Toronto, and that's Mitch Marner.
Okay, yeah.
I like Mitch Marner, but I'm not a giant fan of his contract. But what he writes here is, sticking with the Maple Leafs, Mitch Marner is better than William Nylander. He, along with Heischer and Patrice Bergeron, are Selke Trophy candidates.
Yeah,
On top of that, he's one of the best scoring wingers in hockey. The former 4th overall pick had a career-high 99 points this season. Adding Marner would make the Devils a legit contender for an entire generation. He's a perfect combination of age and need. He has the defensive responsibility required to excel in rough system, and he fills the need at winger to round out the top 6. But he does make $10.9 million for the next 2 years. Then he's going to need another contract. So can they afford Mitch Marner? Maybe he writes here. Maybe they can afford Eric Haula at like $2 million, and they can't give a raise to McLeod or Bastion. And maybe you can get away with signing Marner. I like Marner, and I would do a 1-for-1 deal with Marner and Bratt any day of the week. But his contract is big. So that's something. So, I mean, what do you guys think of Marner?
Contract's big, like you said. Marner, I mean, even in the playoffs, though, if you think about it, compared to Bratt had, 1 goal, 5 assists, and Marner was it was 3 goals and 11 assists. So Marner put up some points in the playoffs. I think the biggest problem with him is the money. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him there, but I just don't know what the contract would be.
But if you could make that work and it was a 1-for-1 deal, you guys would be fine with Marner, right?
Yeah, I would. But that's a huge if, right? Because the numbers you threw out, man, we don't know the whole math of the GM's facing with caps and everything else, and blowing up Jack Hughes' money for Marner and stuff. It's a huge implication. But if it could just work, like you said, yeah, man, why wouldn't you take Marner over Brad right now? Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, Marner could maybe replace Heischer on this team because they're both Selke.
Yeah.
They're super responsible. Right. And I mean, so he can definitely replace Bratt.
Mitch Marner is a hell of a player. He would help any team that he goes to.
Chris,
Sure.
you see how many years he had left on his contract, Marner?
2.
Okay, 2. Okay.
2 years.
I mean, that's 100% person for person. I would take that. But yeah, it's really, again, the money's going to get in the way. What do we do with Timo Meier if we have that? What do we do? Did we address our goaltending situation before that or after that? I don't know that could be answered. I would think for this team where it's at, that's a nice dream, but probably leave his $10 million away. Listen, Brad has a certain skill set, which is really phenomenal during the regular season. If you really break it down, if you told me, okay, you can't quite replace his 30 goals, but maybe someone can come up and give you 20 and 25 and some solid defense and grow into a hell of a player like a la Foot. I mean, there's just, we have options And it's not the end of the world if we lose a 30-goal scorer, because I think we've got some kids that can come up and pump up 20.
Yeah, no, like,
Maybe
I
that's
agree.
20, but Mercer makes up the other 5. Like, it's gonna, kind of all work together.
But we're all in
The whole
agreement,
purpose
though.
was we have to go get a winger. Do we even have to go get a winger? That's what Villano says, but I think Bobby's saying maybe we don't have to go get one. I kind of hear that,
Well, I mean, I do think that you have to have some guys that have been down in the system in Utica for a while have to get legitimate
Right.
chances. I mean, you drafted these guys, you've developed these guys, you've put the time in,
Only so
and
much
now
room.
you give them a chance. But I mean, 1 for 1, if the money is not an option, I think we all agree Marner over
Sure.
Bratt.
Yeah.
The
Sure.
third guy he has is another guy I like, but I just don't. I wouldn't want to do this to Bratt as much as I am disgusted with his playoff performance. Clayton Keller, Arizona. I just don't want to send Bratt to Arizona. That's fucked up. So
You mean Utah?
Yeah, or Houston. So he writes about nobody signed for longer than Clayton Keller in Arizona. The New Jersey Devils will make a lot of sense. They're at the beginning of their window, matching the 24-year-old's prime with that of Nico Hischier, Timo Meyer, Jack Hughes, and others. Keller is the exact kind of player the Devils want, but likely wouldn't get in another circumstance. Keller is coming off a point per game, putting in 86 points. He's a better player than Bratt, and the Coyotes would likely ask the Devils to add to the deal. Devils coid do whatever. He says, I'll add a defenseman. The issue here is whether the Devils will want to do this to Bratt. That's exactly what I said. So Clayton Keller, again, a guy I don't know if I would take over Bratt. I also haven't seen Clayton Keller a lot. I don't really watch Coyote games a whole lot when we're not playing them. And so then he goes to number 4. This is the guy at number 4 that I would actually like to see them move and get this guy. Jake Getzel from Pittsburgh.
Right.
And Jake Getzel's name hasn't been mentioned this offseason, but shouldn't it? Maybe. The Pittsburgh Penguins are making major changes, replacing their GMs and president. Reports say multiple members of the Devils' front office have been interviewing for the job. Nobody cares about that. The Penguins would need to give to get, especially since this is a trade with constant reminders inside the division. This is a team which desperately needs a player like Bratt. Would they be willing to do it at the expense of their one true superstar winger under the age of 30? Can they afford to pay him $8 to $9 million a season? And now I haven't heard Getzel's name out at all, but this dude is a hell of a fucking player.
30-goal scorer.
And he can score, and he's playoff experience. He's a veteran. That is the kind of guy out of all these dudes so far on this list, I would say I would love to get on this team. What do you guys think about that?
I could see it. I mean, again, it's close to the money problem, but yeah.
And the last guy he has is a guy that we talked about last year getting here, and I didn't want him last year. I don't want him now, is Alex DeBrincat.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not a fan of DeBrincat, and I'm fine. I can talk about a little bit about what he writes, but really, I mean, so those are the only ones that are acceptable trades for Jesper Bratt. So we can't talk about possibly trading him for Connor Hellebuck anymore. But out of all those guys,
okay,
I just think when it comes to the goaltending issue, is that if you are going into this season uncertain about your goalie, you have to do something, because we can't do this every year. We can't go into another playoff and just have our goaltending as suspect as it was.
I would be shocked if Fitzgerald didn't explore this. Don't you think he's definitely going to explore this? Whether or not he can make the deal, I don't know. But I would be shocked if he was like, and I know he's got to say what he's got to say in the exit interview, but even what he said, I don't think we got the impression that, oh no, we're not doing anything different with goaltending. We're good. He said stuff like, I'm going to defer to my team, including Martin Brodeur and everybody else. We're constantly evaluating these, he tried to say some positive things about our guys, but I didn't get the impression that it's locked up. Yeah.
Don't be surprised if you can make a
speak
trade,
of-
too. He's talking about, we might not have a first right now, but like he was saying in his meeting, he said, it's not that we're not going to have one. I wouldn't mind seeing us grab one we have a lot of, I feel like a big problem we have is with this playoff run that we had. Even though the season was amazing, I am very proud of this team. I'm not going to complain about it. But I will say we have so many question marks because of the last 2 months, right? There's so many question marks that we don't know if some of these players, we don't know if it was just a bad run. So it's really like with obviously the goaltending, but even other guys, they left us with a lot of questions, definitely for this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Fitzgerald's on record saying, admittedly the Devils played better in front of Schmid, and he said that the players will tell you that too. He's kind of defending Vanacek in a way, and again, there was a time just not too long ago, a few weeks left in the regular season where at least I recall I was sitting here pining, like, give Vanacek a start. I don't want to hear about tired. Like, this is our number one. Let's let him go. Let's let him roll. Thinking he was going to go in with all the confidence in the playoffs. There's just, did they play better in front of him? Yeah, they probably did, but it was still kind of a stinker. Can Schmid come out next year and be like the guy? He could, or he couldn't. The whole issue to me comes down to, even what we're talking about with these potential trade candidates, we're almost splitting hairs. We're talking about a general amount of goals and the same general amount of money. My issue is I don't think we need an $8.5 million winger in that position. I would rather spend that money on a bona fide goalie and fill that winger role with just anybody who plays hard, throws in 20 goals. Like I said, I love what Bratt brings, but that's my issue. With the players we have signed and the core we have, we don't need an $8.5 million right winger.
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly where I stand.
I would like to
use it to get a bona fide goalie. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Definitely. No, I would like to get a more solid third defensive pairing, because I feel like, you know what, you get Hellebuck, and he might have made a difference, but it would have been really tough, man, because some of those games, I don't care who was in that we just collapsed. And, it starts from, the goaltending out. Definitely, it's something you want to improve. But I feel like if we don't, have a better replacement for the Brendan Smith and, Severson setup we got, and just put some, more responsible D in there, then I think it's going to be wasted to some extent,
Before we do the devil let's talk real quick about the defensive pairings and next year what they are probably going to be. All right,
yeah,
so
it's a good question, definitely.
I think it's safe to say that, probably Hamilton and Hughes will be our number one. You're probably not going to have Graves on the team. You're probably not going to have Severson on the team. So let's say your second pairing instead of Marino and Graves is Marino and Nemec.
And guys, I got to say, I saw Nemec play yesterday. We should really be, I watched that Slovakia game yesterday, and the guy's going to be good for us. Actually, Siegenthaler scored yesterday. He sure had a good, but when you watch Nemec play, we should be excited about him because he is.
Yeah, the future.
You can definitely tell he's on the ice. He played actually more minutes yesterday than any player in that game. So.
And then, he's going to be good. And then your third pairing is what? Siegenthaler and Ball?
That could work. That could work.
That could very well be.
Six?
Yeah.
And I think that's, and I haven't even seen Simon Nemec play, and I think that's a better six guys on our blue line than we had this year.
Totally agree.
And if you look at the pairings like that, right? Hamilton can, of course, he can score goals, and he's a power play specialist back there. But having Hughes and Hamilton, where either one of them can push that puck forward and get the offense going. Hughes is a little bit more responsible defensively than Hamilton, but he's serviceable. Then you got Marino, who doesn't really pitch in a whole lot. He's mostly more of a stay-at-home guy, but you got a guy like Nemec on that line with him that can push that puck. And Siegenthaler and Ball, you have two solid guys, stay-at-home guys that you can try and match up against a good forward line on the other team. I like that defense, the way that defense looks with those guys.
And I tell you, even though Siegenthaler had that unfortunate penalty, I liked his play in the playoffs. I like Siegenthaler on the team actually.
And he's not going anywhere. Listen, he's got a reasonable contract that he plays above. So for that reason, he's a solid blue liner to have. If he were needed to be packaged to do something even better, then that's a different story. But for what he gives and what he's paid, he's a perfect piece. My only problem is Nemec, as good as he is, would he actually make the team out of camp? We don't know. I think Fitzgerald hinted he'd love to see him push for it. But if he doesn't, is he going to have to wait too long? not hindsight is hindsight, right? But I mean, what if Luke Hughes came in much earlier in these playoffs, for example? Like, you just really don't know what would happen. Maybe not the Ranger series, maybe even the Ranger series. Maybe it doesn't go 7 if he's there. We just don't know.
We were calling for
but Nemec's young, man.
But there's one thing we have to address, and I know you guys might not agree with me, but I see it now in the playoffs. I watch it when I watch Florida play. I mean, we can hate Gudas. I don't hate him. I'm actually like, as more I watch him play, I appreciate him. We need a little bit of this. We need these guys. And I watch it, and it's a big thing in the playoffs because it just
Meyer kind of filled that role a little bit, but not consistently.
No, not enough, though. I mean, you watch Florida play, I mean, you could see where that's a big – even with Carolina. We talked about this. I know Chris was mentioning that he didn't think that they could rattle Carolina. You could see them getting under their skin,
First game, I was thinking, I was watching all the highlights out and, like, it's happening, dude. I'm watching Florida. They're starting to, like, really frustrate Carolina, and it's already the first game. I mean, and it's a crazy overtime, but still.
They're a tough team to play, no doubt. They are a tough team to play. And, you do need that. The problem with that, I don't know if it's a problem, but, like, when you have a guy or two like that, they have to still be able to do the things that the Devils do. And that is it's hard to find guys that are big and willing to hit and can get in the dirty spots and get gritty and be fast and do everything responsibly like Lindy wants to do. So it's kind of tough, but I think we do need to get a little bit more grit or toughness, whatever you want to say. But, and guys that are willing to do the work. And maybe, like we said last time, maybe it's not that we don't have the guys. Maybe they're just not willing to do it. I saw Bratt quit on it. Bratt's not a guy that you're going to get physicality from. But I saw him quit on a lot of plays in the playoffs. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe a guy like, Meyer with a full season, like Dan said, with this team can be that guy. But I do think you do need to get one or two other dudes that can be more physical. So
I don't know who's out there that can fill that role, and that's something I'm really interested to see if in the offseason we at least get towards that spot, because I feel like that's a huge playoff hole.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see who's available at the free agency and see if the Devils go after anybody. I'm sure we'll be hearing more stuff about that as free agency gets closer, but that's going to be a fun thing to watch.
It can also be addressed as part of the collective. I mean, a couple of different mindset changes. I know I mentioned Foote again, but a guy like that to come in and play a harder game, a couple more people playing a harder game, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be one particular person throwing that role around. But if the collective can kind of pick up that a little bit, I mean, if Jack Hughes can throw body slams, then anybody can step up.
Maybe the playoff experience they got this year, maybe that's something that is known to this team now. Like, we do all have to play a little bit different, whatever. But I agree. So it'd be interesting to see. So how about we play a game?
Oh well,
I like games.
Yeah,
I like
games. Did somebody say games?
Even though it's only me and Dan and guessing because Tony apparently disappeared. But we could. You lost it?
No, it's just I've got so many here now. Let's see if we got the game. And we might have the game.
Shall we play a game?
Buckle up, boys and girls. It's time for the Devil You Know on the Uncle Pucker New Jersey Devil Podcast.
It is the Devil You Know, boys and girls, where we test our devil knowledge against one another, where today Bobby will be asking us questions about a former devil, and me, myself, and Tony, and Dan get to guess answers. We get 3 incorrect answers before we are eliminated. We can ask Bob any question we want. He can or cannot answer them. It is up to him. So, Bobby, the floor is yours.
Okay. Very excited about this one. We're hoping it goes a good couple questions in. This is a Canadian...
Zamboni driver.
Damn it, it's over.
Yeah!
Wow, that's awesome, Tony. You did it again.
All right. Canadian-born forward. He has 934 games played with 200 goals, 401 assists for 601 points. He was a plus 86 in his career with 452 penalty minutes. He ended his career in 2012, having played with 7 different teams.
Oh, okay.
He holds a club record for 534 consecutive games played. Bit of an Iron Man there.
A club record.
A club record.
For how many
He's
games?
his pickup. He's played for 7 teams.
And how many games was his streak?
534.
537.
7 teams, Jesus.
Can you tell us what teams he played for?
Not yet.
Okay.
His best statistical season was 2002-2003, where he played in all 82 games, had 25 goals, and 46 assists for 71 points. And he appeared in 14 playoff games that year.
Repeat
Was
that
that
one
with the
again, Bob?
Devils?
Excuse me, Chris?
Was that with the Devils?
I'm not answering that yet.
Okay.
Can you repeat that
Okay.
again?
Yeah. 2002-2003, 82 games played, 25 goals, 46 assists for 71 points.
Cup year.
And 14 playoff games.
Lemieux?
It's not Lemieux.
Okay.
And
Now
he
we
was
go
new to the team then, so he's one of the younger guys on that third Cup team.
No, he didn't say he was on that team.
I'm
I asked-
skipping around the years a little bit here.
He didn't say he was on the Devils in 2002, 2003. I asked him.
Tom
if he was
Chorsky?
with the Devils.
Tom
when-
Chorsky.
Now break it
So
down a
it's-
little bit. Here's the stuff that Tony loves. He was a 1993 pick of the Devils in the second round.
Oh.
He was on the AHL All Rookie team in the 97-98 season with the Great Lake River Rats.
Oh.
Are you ready to take a guess?
Is it it's not Scotty Gomez. I forget it. I'm not definitely not him.
Okay. He debuted in December 1997. Had a
Jay
cup of
Pandolfo?
coffee. No.
Ooh.
I'm done.
that
Wait,
was
you had
right?
3 guesses already?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
You had 3?
Yeah.
I had Lemieux and
Chorsky.
Chorsky. That's it.
And I just said
Or
Pandolfo.
Pandolfo. Who was your third?
I just said Pandolfo.
That's the
Yeah.
Okay, but that's your second. What was your
Chorsky. Who
Lemieux
else
and
did you
Pandolfo.
say?
Chorsky, Lemieux.
Oh,
did
he
say
said Lemieux too.
Oh, right. I thought that was Dan. Okay.
No, I didn't
Tony,
say
you
Lemieux.
have been eliminated.
Gomez. I got one guess.
Right.
I didn't
Okay.
guess.
All right,
So
keep
after his
going.
quick call up in December of 97, he went back down to the AHL, and he got called back up again in April for the remainder of the year. This is 98
Oh, that's
now,
not helping
where he
me.
played 11 games.
Oh, 11.
End of the year call up, right?
In 98.
Correct. In the 97-98 season, he got called up in April 98.
That's like the end of the season where they're just filling time. He didn't play playoffs that year, or you're not saying?
I don't have that stat, actually.
Okay.
Okay.
He began full-time role with the Devils beginning the 98-99 season. And he was a regular.
You said forward already, right? Definitely
I
forward
did say
with
forward.
these numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you say penalty minutes?
I did say penalty minutes, and
Well,
those
can you tell
were
me again, please?
452,
452.
All right. I don't know if that helps me.
which is interesting.
That's
as
not an
well, right?
extraordinary number for 500 and something games. But he didn't play 500 and something games with the Devils necessarily. That's career, you said, right?
Well, it was 934 games.
I thought you
Total
said
career.
534.
No, 934.
Oh, shit.
A long career.
I wrote 534 too.
Okay.
Okay.
So he has a quote that he's known for, yet I believe that he's probably not the only player to say it. But his quote was, "Goals are like bananas, they come in bunches."
Brendan Morrison.
Correct.
That's a good. Nice, Dan.
You son of a bitch,
I
I wasn't
remember-
done with the good clues.
Sorry,
That's
I remember. You
awesome.
had better clues than
You
that?
remember that quote?
I do. I remember them making a big deal about it on broadcast. I don't know. I think it was Chico. I want to say went into it. You know how
All right.
Chico
So let's
makes
go
a big
through
deal about goofy things.
the other one so we could see where Tony and Chris would have got it, because it gets easier as I get down here. In fact, I didn't know what order to put some of these because I didn't want to give it away.
Right.
Chris actually asked the question too early about the 2002-2003. He did not play for the Devils that year. He was
Okay.
only a Devil between 97 and 2000. And then I was either going to go with some of the people he played with or mention that he did not ever win a cup. So you would know he's on the 2000 team, but not win a cup.
That's what I was thinking about Gomez, and then I had my years wrong anyway. But because I was thinking he won a cup.
Ovechkin,
I was thinking Brian Giunta at first, and then I was like, wait, he was American. He wasn't born in Canada, and he didn't play for the team. Right. So.
The Sedin twins. Tony, I think,
Vancouver,
if anybody.
Well, the Pandolfo, I only said because of the '93. That's what fucked me up with there.
Yeah. He was part of the West. Tone with the bunches thing. Tony?
No, I didn't even think about that.
No? Okay.
But now that he says it, I remember it. I remember. I didn't even.
Do you remember that?
I didn't put that in too early. Damn it, Dan. He was part of the West Coast Express line with Marcus Nasdaq and Pat Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
And then the key, this is the last one if you guys hadn't gotten it. This was going to be my last clue. He's also Hobie Baker, and he was a holdout in 1999.
Hobie Baker I probably would have gotten too with those years.
He was traded in March 2000 with Dennis Peterson for Alexander Mogilny. Figured that would have been the one that everybody would have got at that point.
Yep.
But Dan nailed it on a banana quote.
That was a good clue and a good guess, Dan. That was great.
I thank Chico Resch because I think he went on like way too long about it, like he normally does. You know.
Isn't it funny how, like, the smallest thing, like, that's what got you because you were listening to Chico Resch talking about that damn quote. And here I was thinking, that's not even relevant. Should I even put that in?
It's kind of obscure, right?
Dan, where do you think you would have got it? Do you think you would have got it?
Probably would I go to Mogilny trade. You know, like maybe if you would mention the Sedin, because I do remember him playing with them.
The
I don't know.
West Coast line I would have gotten.
Yeah.
So I was looking for very specific criteria for this one, which is what got me excited because I wanted to find a player who played in that kind of late mid '90s season but didn't win a cup, but was still noticeable. And I wanted your heads to be going like, well, Elias '93, like all this kind of stuff. So I was trying to trip you up by throwing the dates out of order. You know? Yeah,
and in the end, I got around that by not even realizing that he was a non-cup winner. I was still thinking that he was on that 2003
That's what I wanted
team.
you to think until I said played till 2000 and didn't win a cup.
And then that's why I was thinking Gomez. You know, like the
18 thing kind of got me. That's why I was thinking Chorsky because Chorsky played with everybody.
Well, one thing I think we have to really think about here is Tony. Did you take notes on how Bobby did this? Did you see how he did the clues? How there were more than one? I'm just saying, Tony.
You and I have both fucked up the game each one.
It's coming from. I told you, put the duct tape back over her mouth. It's coming from a place of love. I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to help.
Too many drugs, man.
Yeah. Well,
but that was a good one, Bobby. I got it.
Very well be it.
That was a good one.
I was hoping it went further, but good guess, Dan. That's awesome.
Is there anything else that you boys would like to discuss tonight? We're already over an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to put the pin in. There's so much off-season stuff going to go on, you know?
It's going to be very exciting.
All right. Yeah.
Really fast, Kyle Dubas got fired today. He got I saw Shanahan did a press conference. Quinville will meet with Mr. Bettman to be evaluated. He wants to come back into coaching after the Chicago deal.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know if Chicago should have got. I don't know. They got Bedard, as we didn't even mention last show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's also another bit of news that came out that we didn't even discuss, and I guess we can just talk about it. I mean, Lindy will be back. I mean, that's basically what Fitzgerald said. So he's our coach, and
I'm good
again,
with that. I think Tony and I were definitely good with that.
Deserves it.
I mean, I wanted to see what this team can do under a different head coach, but I guess, just with what he's done, he deserves it, and, can't complain about this year now.
Fitz was, huge behind him, too. He went, over the top with praise and stuff.
Yeah, he was.
So, I look, he's a Jack Adams, finalist or something, I guess, right? Isn't he up for the trophy? I mean, it's the hugest turnaround in NHL history from one year to the next, right? So he deserves some credit for that.
He's not going to win it, right, just because of Boston and Jim Montgomery. But
I guess. Yeah,
but he really
know.
Should.
It's pretty remarkable, though, what he did.
If you look at
it,
Montgomery got Cassidy's team. I mean, that was the Boston was put together. He came in, and he got a lot out of them.
He made a great team a little greater. Where we took a terrible team and made it a third place team. So
nobody looks at the Dallas Cowboys and the Super Bowls they win and say Barry Switzer was a great coach. He wasn't. He had Jimmy Johnson's team, and he just kept them in line, and they won a Super Bowl. It happens a lot. It happened to your fucking The Tampa Bay, Tone, when the Bucks. I mean, that was Tony Dungy's team.
Yeah,
and they
Gruden
fucking
won.
Gruden comes down and he wins the Super Bowl with them.
They don't change.
I'm not
anything
taking
plays.
anything away from whatchamacallit did in Boston, but I think you got to give it to Ruff. Look at what the
I
team
agree.
did from 1 year
And I
to the
know
next.
it's just regular season, but we all know which team at least won a round and which team collapsed in the playoffs. So even if you were going to say, oh, like you mentioned, this team went on to win the Super Bowl, that didn't happen with Boston. So he didn't even take them that far. He didn't, start on third base and make the home run even at all. So, like, I get it. It's not about playoffs, but
I think
the
we read an
biggest
article, I think
point
Chris read
turnaround in NHL history. What's that?
It's big.
I think Chris read an article last week, and there was whoever, I don't know who was by, but it was he's not going to do this again. He's not going to. This is not going to happen again. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But Aaron Judge might not hit 62 home runs again. This is the way
Again.
the world works.
Yeah.
And also, no, they're not going to have the start that they had last year. I mean, maybe they will, but most likely not.
And
But
most
this
likely they
team is
won't.
capable. I mean, like we said a million times, it doesn't matter if you end up in the seeding first or your first wild card. It doesn't matter. As long as you
I'm
get
not looking
it.
for another
Look at-
13-game streak. I'm looking for a playoff run that's deeper. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I
if
will give
Ruff's the
up
guy to
any
give it
team.
to us, that's awesome. Yeah.
I will
Listen,
give
he-
up a- Go ahead, Bobby.
I was going to say, he was brought in here because of the way that he does work with young kids. And let's face it, we still have a ton of young kids and more coming up. Like, we are just scratching the surface. So for a little while longer, I think he's the right, coach. And if we continue to see, maybe we win a round or two or a round and then continue to see that we ultimately get pushed around come playoff time, then maybe there's a change that's needed. But I think everybody in the Devils organization now knows what this team has to become. Nobody here on this podcast is interested in building like a fantasy team. That's why we talk about you can maybe let a brat go and fill it in with somebody else, because we just want a playoff contender, a winner, and we want a freaking cup. So
I mean, if Ruff doesn't work, you got the guy on that bench that can take over. I mean,
Absolutely.
and I'm a Ruff.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I've said all along, I like Ruff. I think he deserves it. He had a great season. He's a great coach. He's had the history itself. You look at his records. I mean, the players
Well,
like.
he
him.
doesn't
You would
have
know
a
they do.
Stanley Cup. So I say, if you got this guy locked up for another year, maybe two, go get him a fucking cup.
Because of the
if they win
crease,
a
yeah.
cup, I'm sure he'll retire right afterwards if they win out next year and win a cup. So let's just get him a fucking cup.
Yeah, because
You
if
know?
they would have won this year, don't you
next
think
year it seems like a great
I
time
think
to
he
get
would have
definitely.
hung it up. Yeah.
Let's go.
So it's, and again, that's one thing we don't have to go on and on about talking. Ruff's our coach. That's fine. Move on to other stuff. I just really, really hope that they are, and I'm sure they are, kicking the tires about a possible goalie trade or free agent goalie. And I don't know who's up for free agency yet. We didn't even get into that. Wait till
I
after
think
the
priority
couple-
number one is Meyer.
Yes.
Then Hall is going to follow. Then they'll address the goaltending. I think Brat's going to sit in limbo again. It's just what happens.
We'll find out.
They gave Brad apparently an offer.
He said the deal's
now, I
there.
don't know.
They have it.
I don't know if that's a standing deal or if that is, them now going to go back and renegotiate it, or is, so who knows? But I agree with you. You've given Brad every opportunity to sign with this team. We cannot be now, the first order of business is just go, trying to go and romance Brat to get him to sign with the
Hell
team. Like, you know where you're going. If you want to stay here, sign the fucking contract. We have other people, kind of bigger fish there, that we need to go out and lock up. And Meyer's definitely it, because
The Devils should be in the position of power now. If you
Yes.
can't sit back and realize the potential that's coming in the next 5-6 years, then happily leave, go. It shouldn't.
And that's why I think that you're going to see a lot of free agents starting to say that, this team popping up with teams that they would be willing to come to because of that reason. I mean, the window's open and it's just opening. Like, this team should be very, very good for a very long time. As long as nothing catastrophic happens, they really should. But
You don't think Goudreau's scratching his head right now? Like, oh man, maybe I made a bad choice.
He's got to be.
yeah, I do think he
Worked
is.
out for us possibly, but
I think it did work out for us.
we didn't need
I
another
think-
small forward.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need Johnny Gaudreau on this team. If anything, like I know Dan and I, when we were doing the show early on in the season, we were like, Kachuk was the guy that you needed to go out and get, and I'm telling you, we'd still be playing if we had Matthew Kachuk on this team.
Pretty Evident by how he's playing. Yeah. You're right.
And I know that Fitzgerald made a strong move for him. He really did.
Right.
Just he didn't want to.
You
be
can't always
Live in
get what you
Florida, I heard.
want.
That was
Well, the tax thing is a big deal too for these.
A lot of
guys.
players
I get
like
it.
that. Their money goes further, definitely with
Yeah,
the tax
so.
situation.
Vegas is
But-
up 3-2 right now, too, boys. In that game in the third. I don't know if you guys. I know we got to get off here pretty soon because we're running. But I don't know if you guys. They put out a stat that I thought was kind of interesting. It's just before we leave the playoffs this year. These are the players that are playing right now without a cup. Joe Pavelski's played 177 games without winning a cup. Playoff games, this is. Mark Stahl, 120. Derek Stefan, 120. Paul Stasny, 115. Ryan Sutter, 109. Burns, 106. Theodore, 97. And Riley Smith, 96. So it's going to be nice this year because you're going to see a guy win a cup. There's a lot of dudes who haven't won. Just a shame
Mark
we're not
Stone
there
on that
like we were
list?
saying last week. Like this would have been a perfect playoff to be in.
Was Mark Stone on that list?
No, I don't see his name on that list. no.
Stone did win a cup.
With
I like Mark Stone. He's a hell of a player.
yeah. Let me see here. I mean that and Eichel too, man. He really turned it on this. I mean, he's been impressive too, hasn't he?
That was
Oh
a
no,
ballsy
you're
move.
looking at the wrong stats, man. All I see is that Jack Hughes hasn't won a cup and he played 12 games. So I'd like to get that
right.
going.
That's ridiculous, man. 12 games and no cup.
No cup after
That's
that.
bullshit.
That's 16
Not
win
12
crap.
wins, just 12 games. That's all we got.
Should have been through the conference championship by 12 games.
Indeed.
Oh man, we should still be playing. Anyway, I guess that's going to be it for us tonight. Again, anybody listen to us, you like us, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Amazon. It does go a long way to promoting our podcast, and we really appreciate it. Where we can grow and into a nice community of Devil fans when truly our main goal is that we win our 4th Stanley Cup before the Rangers. So that's really all we're doing. If the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, we're just folding up this podcast and leaving. We're done. Never watching hockey again.
We're going to be the
can't let that happen.
fuckers.
Right.
The aw
so
fuckers.
on that note, the fuckers podcast.
Oh yeah, hey
We're
Chris,
just-
RPA, Jim Brown, huh? Passed away.
Yeah, that sucks. Jim Brown,
Yeah.
greatest running back in NFL history, social advocate, all around badass. Jim Brown passed.
He played
away
what,
today.
57 to 65, and I think he was in the playoffs. Oh, no, he was the rushing leader 8 of those years. I mean, the guy was
Yeah,
a
I mean,
beast.
he was just ridiculous what
Yeah.
he did. But anyway, check us out, like us, tell a friend, and then they'll tell a friend, and then they'll tell a friend, and you guys know how it goes. We'll see you when we see you.
Peace.
Fuck is out.
Later.
It's over, Johnny. It's over!